Let's welcome Nico Lagan to the show. I messed up again, didn't I?
You didn't
Oh,
actually. All that practice before the recording, and when it matters, you got it. Good job.
well, I am a redneck, so what do you want?
All good, brother.
Yeah,
I'm
I
in
grew up,
Alabama. I'm in Alabama. There's hillbillies and rednecks everywhere here, so it's all
you know.
good.
Well, no one really knew my story, but I tell people that after my dad died of hairy cell leukemia when I was 12, we became dirt road poor. And that's truly the only way to explain. I had like 2 pair of pants and 3 shirts, and that was, I had lucky, same pair of shoes that were falling apart all the time. So, but that's how we become who we are. Going through that trials
100%.
and tribulations. So,
There's no such thing as growth without pain and suffering.
what?
There's
You can't
no
just
such
you can't just show up and win.
exactly. But I'm here. Well, look at what's going on right now. That's the expectation of most of the youth to
Right.
just show up. But I'm here. That's enough, right?
Right. I got here. Where's my trophy?
Exactly. Good job. You showed
Yeah.
up.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't talk, like this, but my show is about your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeats.
Mhm.
And if you don't have defeats, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to understand how to move on in life. And it's everywhere. It doesn't have to be a major company. Everybody's defeat is different compared to where they are in life. And it doesn't have, I had one guy on who talked about he lost $50 million in a couple
Oof.
weeks. He had an offer for $50 million to buy his company. He said, no, I'm doing fine. And 7 of his key people left the next week and he lost $30 million. So,
Oof.
yeah.
Youch. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sucks.
He goes, is that a good story? I'm like, yeah, that's a great one.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
That's definitely not bad.
All right. So I know I looked at a few things on you, but I try not to go too deep. So everything's new to me. I know you're from Canada
Yep.
originally, right?
Hmm. Originally.
Yeah. Well, you're not now. You're in the United States, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. For the past year, I'm enjoying my time in the US. I'm happy I got away from the craziness that's going on in Canada right now.
Well, we have it here in the United States too. It just depends on where you live.
My
Right.
point exactly. In
It's
Canada,
basically
it's
the
everywhere.
world. It's all over the world. It's just the new wokeness and the new things that people are looking into, and they think it's the way it should be. When in reality, it's like, no, we are no longer. And it's the same with the military because I'm a military person, and in the military, it was you conform to be one person, one
Hmm.
unit. With now, it's all these individuals, and it's not, the world isn't about individuals. It's about what are you doing for the United States, what are you doing for the world, that kind of stuff. And we've lost that by allowing kids to do whatever they want and no uh
Consequences.
yes for their actions.
Because that's exactly what's going on. You look at a principle like the military that's been around for thousands and thousands of years, that's been been molding boys into men. That was a rite of passages in many societies out there. And you went from molding boys into men through other men through rites of passages to getting rid of all those rites of passages altogether and allowing boys to just be. And now we have eternal teenagers that are just, they look like men, but they definitely are not. They are, if you look throughout history, men were always selfless. We are meant to serve. We're supposed to be serving our families, our loved ones. We're supposed to start to be serving our community, to our country. And now people are so selfish that they care about one thing and one thing alone, themselves. And all those good men that came back from the Second World War, if you look at North America, those were the last time we really had strong good men as a majority of the men. They created such good time that we have a bunch of fucking pussies now everywhere that are just, they just be, they just are, and they expect the society to do everything for them instead of doing for the society in which they live. They don't participate anymore.
And well, and I look at it this way: when you see a husband and wife and the wife's driving.
you, uh, a man's supposed to lead. At the end of the
Right.
day, a man is meant to lead. And nowadays, men don't want that role anymore. They'd rather be led by their women. But what they don't understand is that naturally, women want a leader. They might allow you to not take your masculine men, but given enough time, they'll resent you for it and they'll replace you by a man that will do that role for them. It's like, look at all the feminists out there. Feminists are very good at being feminists until shit hits the fan. When shit hits the fan, they are No problem. We'll go back to the kitchen as long as you protect me. So it's
Yeah, but there's nothing. But truly, it's just like the word liberal. Both of those two used to be fine. It's how they've taken it to
Yep.
the extreme now.
Mhm.
When a
Yep.
liberal today is not the libertarian of the past, just like a Democrat today is not the Democrat of the past. The Republicans are the closest thing to the Democrats of the 50s and 60s than any other time. But back to your 1940s, where the last great generation was back, people, they lied about their age of 15 and 16 to go to
To go
war.
fight.
Right. And now we got these kids who want to have a safe space because they're worried about these things. And that's going to be a problem. But this happened in the 70s. It's going to happen. It happened back then. If you watch any of the shows, like, ever seen the movie Stripes?
Stripes? No, I don't think I
Okay,
have.
well, you're not from America, so don't take that wrong. But it was basically it was about the military and these two, and it was it was two comedians in the movie. It was a comedy, and the military was not how it was. It's totally different than it was, and then it got better, and now it's going through the same situation again. You're looking it up, aren't you?
Of course, I'm in front of my 3 screens laptop. So of course, I'm looking it up. I
Well,
have
I
no
got you.
idea what it is. Oh, I've seen just the cover. It's with
Right.
Bill Murray. Oh, geez,
Right.
he was short. He was young.
Young, yeah, they
I've
all
seen
were
the
young.
cover, but I've never looked at.
I
I've
know,
never
yeah, the
watched it.
movie itself, just in the beginning when they sign up to go into the army and then during boot camp was good. After that, it was a horrible movie.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
yeah, but I mean, it's just the same thing. It's like, you want to serve? No, well, not really. And that was the thing back then. Nobody wanted to serve their country. And then we had 9/11 happen, and then a lot of people I'm here for the country. The problem is, and I always say, John Rambo said it best in Rambo, where he was asked, "What do you want, John?" And he said, he said, "I want what every other person who came over here and spilled their guts for is, I want my country to love me as much as I love it." And that's our problem.
It's it's unfortunate that quote is probably not taken for the intelligence that it actually carries, because it comes from a Rambo movie. But that is
Right,
100%.
exactly. But it was
But that is
perfect.
100. Oh, that is Sylvester. If there's one thing about Sylvester Stallone, he is not a stupid man.
No, he's not.
He's been very good over the years to be able to put his message through his movies. And it's interesting how you never hear his opinion on politics. Every single man out there, you don't hear their opinions. They're conservatives. Like, it's interesting, right? That's how you look at Denzel Washington, which is my favorite actor out there outside of the 80s eras, like the Sylvester Stallone. Never hear about him. All he says is common sense. So he's not a liberal of today. We're not talking, as you were saying earlier, a traditional liberal, which very, very different. It's more of a libertarian, but
Mm-hmm.
those again don't exist. A traditional liberal don't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, because they were right in the middle. They were the voice of common sense, which libertarians are now. And you look at a bell curve. If you look at the studies that are coming out, they look at a bell curve and they say that most people, we agree on 80% of stuff, give or take 80%.
Mm-hmm.
So the average person, I could be, unless I'm one of the 10% that are on both extremes, and it doesn't matter that you're extreme right or extreme left. Extremists have the same mentality. They might just believe in different things, but the way they operate is the exact same thing. You look at the middle, where 80% of people fit. We all agree on 80 to 90% of the same things.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we always argue over the 10% that we don't agree with, instead of looking at it to say, hey, man, you agree with this, you agree with that. Why don't we just build something, relationship or communities and societies, on that 80, 90%? And the 10, let's figure it out later. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but see, I think most of us are in the middle, like you said, but then you
Mm.
have the right and the left, those far extremes that are
Oh,
so
yeah.
loud
Yep.
that they drown out the rest of us. And
100%.
most of us, and I say, it's like if you go to a restaurant and there's this loud ass lady in the bar, just so loud, you leave the restaurant.
Mhm.
And instead of dealing with the issue, you walk away, and that's the problem. We don't want to
Yep.
deal with that issue.
100%.
We just walk away.
I say this all the time. The reason for what's going on right now, you and I are to blame for this. We let it happen. We treated this insanity like children. We said, you know what? This is going to take care of itself eventually. I don't have to worry about it. They'll grow out of it. They didn't. Because we didn't do anything. We didn't put our foot down and say, you know what? No. they continued growing and growing with that same type of mentality. And that's where we're sitting right now. We're sitting with a bunch of grown children that were never said no in their lives. Look at some of the extreme, and we're talking same extreme, that both side, the extreme acts the exact same. And as you said, they scream so loud that most people are just, I don't have time for this shit. I'm just going to leave.
Right.
But it's because of that we are in the situation that we're in, because we have not put our foot down. And this what's need to happen at this point. And this is why I create all the content that I create every day, just to say, guys, this makes no sense. It makes zero sense. If you're not happy about what's going on, there are ways around this. You just need to start standing up and speaking up. Stop being shy about what you think and fucking say it.
Well, how about vote?
Was that?
I said, how about vote? Get out and
But
vote. And so I don't know but here, that's our problem. So in California, where I'm at in Stanislaus County, the last election, 58% of the people came out who was registered voted.
why do you think that is?
Because they think their voice doesn't count.
Yeah, that's it, huh? You know, there's one of my buddies in Canada has been approached a few times by conservative parties for him to run. He's not really interested by that, not yet. At least he'll be interested further down the road. And I got another friend that's being approached by both liberal and conservative. So I have a few friends that are dabbling with it, and they tell me the same thing. He's like, bro, I don't care about the federal level. I don't care about the country itself. Not as in I don't care for my country, but I don't care to be at that level because I can't change my community. So my buddy always tells me he doesn't vote on the federal election, but he makes sure that he's at every town hall, that he votes in his community, because that's where change is going to take place. If you want to change a country, change community by community by community, in the same way that if you want to change the world, it's done one man at a time.
Right. But the only problem with what you just said, though, the federal controls a lot of stuff. So you need to, for me, I vote in all elections because I want to make sure.
Mhm.
The problem what has been, though, and this is in California, is they write whatever the ballot thing is.
Yeah.
Where most people will say no is to get it, and you got to say yes not to get it. Because they know people don't read, they just hit no. And so they've learned how to manipulate the system. And so my big push, and when I'm on air all week long, is to tell people, make sure you read the damn thing before you vote, because the reason we got this gas tax is everybody voted no, and that was to keep it.
See, just right then and there makes no sense. You know, they're doing this to screw with people's mind. They're not stupid. If there's one thing that bothers me to hear, those politicians are stupid. No, hell no, bro. Those guys are there because they're fucking smart. They're not stupid at all. They know exactly what they're doing. And those type of things should never, like, this should not be allowed to happen, to trick people like that, because people just, as you said, we don't read. It's like you log into Facebook. Have you read our user agreement? Yeah, of course, that I went through thousands of pages of text. They know that we're not going to read that. So they can put whatever they want in there because we just want next. So they do it on purpose. It's unfortunate, but that's how they win, right?
Right. Well, that's like TikTok. I mean, you told them you can have access to all my texts, all my pictures and everything. It's all in there. And everyone's like, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. You just didn't read it. You just said, That's why I have a separate phone for that one.
But most platforms now are like that too, right? You can have an ad. You can have, an app that does nothing. Oh, I want to download Canva on my phone. They're probably going to ask me for phone numbers, records, all my friends, GPS location. They all want that. If you get something that is free, that means you are what's for sale. You are the target. You as a person, you are what they want. They'll never give you anything for free. They have somewhere to make money off. They want to sell your stuff to other people.
Nothing's for free in this world. You pay for it somehow.
You're the product. If something's free, you're the product. No doubt about it.
All right. So since we've been talking about the United States and everything, governments and politics, let's get on to what you do for a living. The reason you're here. So it's social media strategist. How'd you get into what you're doing now?
I am, well, I quit my career about a year ago. I was a sales engineer for one of the biggest telecommunication companies in Canada. I handled accounts that were across Canada, across North America, and I was wearing a suit every day, man. And very technical job. Loved what I did. But about I can say it's March 2020. Once the the pandemic, however the fuck you want to call it, whenever happened back in March 2020, my job went from face to face because I would meet customers every day, right? And it went from face to face to online. So I got rid of my place in the city. I lived alone back then. I got rid of my place in Montreal, went to my investment house that was a log house in the middle of nowhere that I used to rent on Airbnb. And I said, you know what, let's get away from this insanity. I saw it coming. Like, I've been called a conspiracy theorist since I'm 14 years old. They didn't have a name for what I am back in those days, but as soon as I saw this coming, I'm like, oh, I don't, if I don't have to be around a lot of people in the city, I'm not going to start wearing a mask as I walk outside. Not going to happen. And in Quebec, at least the province where I'm from, the French part of Canada, the restrictions were brutal, absolutely brutal. And because I refused to get vaccinated, I could not go to the gym. I couldn't teach martial art anymore. I couldn't go anywhere, actually. I could go to the grocery store and pharmacies. That's it. That became my world. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'll get away from the craziness. I built myself a gym. I turned my living room into a gym, and I moved to the woods. I stayed there for 2.5 years. And not long after I moved there, my job started threatening me that if I didn't get vaccinated, they would fire me. So I'm like, you know what? I can't control what people do to me. That it's out of my control, but I can control what my reaction is. And I'm like, okay, what are my transferable skills? What have I learned over the past, in a career of 20 years? What have I learned? And I decided to start a podcast. And it was little two microphones and an H6 Zoom recorder that I still use for all the podcasts I do when I'm going to my guest places. But that was 3 years ago. I recorded probably at least 300 to 400 podcasts since then, both as a host and as a guest. And yeah, I started doing that 3 years ago, did it part-time 2 years ago. And a year ago, I just refinanced my house, took all my investments out, started my own video production company, and I left Canada in an RV, and I've been building that business ever since. I spent so much money figuring out how algorithms work, and especially with the type of content that I like, what we're talking about. I talk about this stuff every day, right? So I normally have 5-6 strikes on TikTok. Facebook's shadow banning me, so's YouTube, so's Instagram. So I'm very good now at knowing what my limits are, where I can and cannot go without getting banned. So now I teach that to other people, how they can get millions of views every month like I do without being banned. So, because it's an art nowadays, and especially as a guy, if you don't have a pair of tits and you're not ready to get half naked, guess what? You're competing with content that is going to be very hard for you to get the attention you deserve.
You don't want to show your labias in the light.
Exactly. No, but it's so empowering.
Have you seen the thing on TikTok? It's like, give me a break. My eyes never saw. I'm like, you didn't see this? They stand in the light and it shines in between their thing, and it's like, give me a break. Really?
Are you serious?
Yeah. Through their dress and it's stuff that they do, and it's like, really? Yeah.
So, this is what we come down to
get views.
But you know what? They're liberated now, though. At least these women are liberated. They're not oppressed by the white man anymore. So it could be worse. It could be worse, but it's our society is upside down. As much as I speak about this every day, I'm writing my second book that touches about that too. And you would have told me this 10 years ago, that this would be our reality. I wouldn't have believed you. It's really hard for me to admitted that the world has completely changed over the past 10 years. It hasn't been that long. It's completely insane how fast the world has changed. Completely insane.
But it's going to be just as fast going back. Watch.
Yeah, but it's going to get worse, though. It's going to take another few years before it starts getting back on the other side. It's going to swing back. You're absolutely right. The study shows it. that's what's going to happen. It's cyclical.
Well, it's because people are going to start what's happening right now, the violence against the once a liberal gets some violence against them, all of a sudden they become a Republican where they want now have the police back and everything else instead of what they've been saying the whole time. It's all fine and good to say it a certain way, but that as long as their security is out front. But when they don't have their security, and I tell people, you don't understand this whole way we're going right now. If we don't have an election change in the United States, it's going to get way worse. It's going to get to a point where it's going to be like 1980 again, where then it'll eventually change, but we've destroyed the country so much at that point.
You know, I remember seeing a meme years ago, and it was guys that were doing a counter protest to a conservative protest. I don't remember exactly. They were peaceful, but then Antifa showed up, and there's a guy that's trying to sucker punch another guy, and his buddy sees it, catches the punch midair, and all you see is the guy actually does that. It's one of my favorite videos ever recorded. But this is what's going on right now. As soon as you start standing up to the woke madness, they're going to start backing away because they've never developed the skills required to do anything. It's just groupthink. If you look at 1984, the book by Orwell, groupthink is right there. It's very easy when everybody agrees. But when you start having people that are actually trained and dangerous, saying no, this I left you go for so long, now I'm done. And this is the argument, or this is the conversation. You know what, let me ask you this, because this is what I debate all the time. I believe in standing your ground. Not a law that we have in Canada, but it's one of the laws in the US I absolutely love. If you come into my house, I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want to defend my family, and I will live and die by this. But where does it stop now? Because you see the woke crowds now. Like, I posted a video this morning about how Target is closing 4 or 5 of their locations because they won't stop getting it. They won't stop getting attacked by the woke crowd, and yet Target's one of the most woke companies out there. So when does it stop? Do you wait until those people are at your house, or do you wait at the village? Like, where does it stop? Where does stand your ground works, not in the sense of a law, but in the sense of morality? Where do we stop? Where do we say, you know what? This is a line. I draw my line in the sand right here, and it's done. So where does it stop? Is it your community? Is it your front gate? Is it your house? Where does it stop?
Well, it's community. But back to what you just said, because I did a thing today on that. So there's 3 stores in Oakland and San Francisco.
Yep.
And the reason those are having problems is because the wokeness was the DA was in charge, wasn't doing, and they passed this thing where you could steal $950 and you won't go to jail because it's a lifestyle. So then all these crime syndicates came in and go, okay, give us 50 people, go in there, steal up to this. Now it's millions of dollars. And that's why Target's like 700 billion or 700 million loss last year, 500 million loss this year because of it. And if you look at the other places, it's Seattle, Washington, which is very woke, and then Portland, Oregon is the other 3 stores.
Interesting.
Every cities that had the issues of who was in charge and the problems they caused. And now San Francisco's losing so many people, companies and this, and they have all these buildings that are vacant. And what's going to happen is the mighty dollar is going to say, the money is going to control this and say, you know what, you're costing us too much money. Get out of here. We need this back. We need our city back. And that's what's going to happen. The fact that 5 million, migrants or whatever you want to call them came through our borders in the last couple of years, that's just ridiculous. I'm all good about helping the little guy, but let's know who you are, because besides that 5 million regular people, we have Al Qaeda and everything else coming through at the same time. So we got some problems.
But it's completely insane that it's like we were saying earlier. We're saying defund the police. But then when those things happen, like, oh, defund the police. Yeah, okay. So all those cities turns into crime cities. And now they're calling for, why is the police not doing more? You wanted to defund them. Like, do you remember when they took, I think it was last year, a bunch of very Democrat people took over, like, I think it was Antifa that took over a city. They took over
Oregon.
What's the first thing they did? They put on walls to prevent people from coming in. How ironic is that they were the one complaining against the wall, Trump's wall, but the first thing they do when they take over a place that they want to defend, put walls.
Well, it's always, again, it's It doesn't matter what I want. It's, that kind of stuff. And yeah, then we have these problems, and it will change. But I think the biggest thing was the pandemic, the whole thing with
Mhm.
that. It was all about control. And it's our government. The current government right now is the one who's making it okay we have to worry about the actual individual instead of the many. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So,
This is, I don't talk about this online all like very often, but at the end of the day, this is what's happening. When you first start realize that the government doesn't like you, they don't do things for you. They're selfish. They do things for themselves. They don't care about you. There's no there's no knight in shining armor that's going to come save you. Nobody cares. You're on your own. You have yourself, your family, your loved ones, your community to take care of. It's on you to do something because nobody gives a shit. This is what changes your mind. And I was hoping that during the pandemic, people would realize that. That was one of my hopes, to say that, especially in Canada, because it was one after the other, after the other. The restrictions were insane, absolutely insane. But people didn't wake up. Like, I was looking at states like Florida, for example. Whatever you think about DeSantis, I have broken down everything that he's done. I have studied what he's done during the pandemic, and I'm like, man, he did a good job. Like, screw
mhm.
the man. Like, forget if you don't like the guy, whatever. But look at what he did. He gave choices to all the people out there. You want to wear a mask? No problem. But companies can't force you to do so. You want to get vaccinated? No problem. Companies cannot force you to do so. And he did that both on the private sector and on the government sector. He's like, you want to send your kids to school? No problem. The schools are open. You want them to stay home? No problem. It's available online. This is libertarian right there. This to me is exactly how Canada and the US should have handled it. You guys want to get vaccinated? No problem. Here's a vaccine. You guys don't want to? No problem. On your own. No problem. This is your responsibility. You take care of it. But it's insane that you look at your health minister in the US and in Canada, and I look at me. I'm like, I'm 41 years old with a six pack. I weigh my food and I've been healthy, taking care of myself. I exercise 5, 6 times a week. I meditate. I make sure that I don't put any poison in my body. I'm the one that needs something. Bitch, please. Like, he looks like you're dying. I don't know what the name is of that girl, but she's like,
I
she
know
looks like
exactly what
she's
you're talking
dying.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like she's dying. And yet you're telling me I'm not healthy?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
No, it's just about control. That's all it's about. It's all
100%.
about control. They want to control you so that you send in your tax money. They
Yep.
can do what they want with it. And I keep saying it. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. This government is
100%.
spending too much, and that's the problem. We'll never get out from underneath this inflation. Interest rates will
There's
keep going up because if
100%.
you don't stop spending, and that's the first time in history we have a government spending and doesn't care that the inflation is there and how much that the current president is supposed to be in uniter. He's not. He's supposed to be here for the people. He's not. He doesn't care about anything else but their pocketbooks, and that's all they care about.
We
And
got a
that's our
prime minister in Canada 8 years ago that said that the budget will balance itself. That's the guy running our country right now. A budget will balance himself. Good
yeah.
job, asshole. Look at what's going on right now. Canada's never been more in debts. There hasn't. He has spent more money than every single prime minister prior to him combined.
Well,
It's absolutely insane.
yeah, I knew this
But
was going to happen once they shut down the first pipeline. I knew this was happening. As soon as that happened, I was like, we got problems coming now. And
and
then
they
there's one thing after another. Yeah.
and they did the same thing in Canada. We have the third largest reserve of gas in the world. We buy from Saudi Arabia. We do not produce our own anymore since Trudeau's in power.
Yeah.
Yet when Harper was there, he developed Alberta to no end. We were going to have the Keyline pipeline that was going to go all the way through the US. It would go all the way to Vancouver, all the way to Montreal, so that it can be shipped to other countries since we have so much. First thing he did, they bought it. So the government bought the pipeline, shut it down. One of our biggest source of revenue that we have. Instead, we're spending money on Saudi. But again, what's hilarious is that you have those environmentalists that are telling us that, oh, we shouldn't do fracking. No, it's okay. Just ship it from across the world all the way here. Like,
Yeah.
Come on. Are we completely insane?
No, they are. Yeah. I mean, that's a problem. There's so many issues we have. We could go on for hours, but the biggest issue is people need to wake up and see what's really going on. I mean, right now, in the United States, this current president has used more barrels out of the strategic reserve than any other president combined in history. And so we're at half of what we normally have. And instead of us producing, which we can produce way more, and we were at $20 a barrel when Trump was in and he wanted to increase the strategic reserve. And they said, no, you can't do that. That's just, there's no reason. And now to replace it, we're talking, like $28 billion or more. We've given $100 billion to Ukraine. Why? Yeah,
It's okay. People don't know their history. They don't know that Ukraine has a bunch of Nazis in there, and the government that's currently, like Zelensky, that's there right now, is controlled by Nazis. Like, it's insane. How do people not read history? Humans are cyclical. You can look history. You can predict the future. It's not that complicated. It's been written.
Well, if people really knew their history, they would knew the Democratic Party is the one that was for slavery, and they were the ones who fought the civil rights movement on the floor of the House with a filibuster in the 1960s and wanted to go through. It's the Republicans who freed the slaves. It was the Republicans who wanted the equal for everybody. And then so the whole thing about dropping all the statues that they were doing and taking all the portraits out of the White House that they wanted to do and that they did, they were all Democratic, and Democrats who actually had slaves, but they were all Democrats. So if they get rid of that, you don't know the Democratic Party was all about slavery.
Every time I see this happening, it always comes down to the same thing in my mind: George Orwell, 1984. And I always think to myself, he wrote it in 1948 as a warning, not as a fucking blueprint. It was supposed to be a warning for us to be careful because this would happen. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody that's never read it, but at the end, he just agrees to, oh, my country's so beautiful, and he goes for it. And this is what we're seeing right now. This is exactly what we're seeing. People are so scared, as we said earlier, to be canceled, that they will go with this, because as long as you know what, let me do what I want at my house. Oh, what? At least let me watch what I want on TV. Oh, let me. They keep on chipping and chipping and chipping away at those freedoms, little by little, to a certain point where people don't even realize what they had 10 years ago, what they had 20 years ago. They just don't remember. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And yet it's you and I that are crazy somehow.
Well, the only positive thing is I won't be here in 50 years. So,
you know what? That is, I never thought about it that way, but that's not bad. Yeah. But
we're so mad. But you know what? You go back in time, you listen to George Carlin. You know George Carlin is?
Love George Carlin, the
1970s. He was saying the same thing about what we're going on now is the same thing back then. Everybody talking about climate, this and that, and everything they've said that was over the last 50, 70 years that was going to happen by this date never happened. And it's always something else. And now it's about climate. And if you don't agree with them, you're a climate denier. And I'm like, no, you're the climate denier, because you're denying the fact that I think climate's okay. So what's the difference? You're a climate denier also. It's just stupidity stuff that they try to throw at you to make you feel bad.
There's a Canadian historian that specializes in weather, and his name's Tim Ball. He wrote a book, super small book, can get it for probably $10-15 off Amazon. It's 100-page. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant book. That is what he does. That is his job, is to analyze weather and temperature pattern. That's his job. He's been trying to talk against this for years. They keep on blocking what he has to say, and people turn around and believe Bill Nye, the science guy. That's the guy we're gonna trust. Are you kidding me? Like, what's his name? The guy in Rocky 4. Have you ever seen that meme where Dolph
Lundgren? No, that was the first one.
Huh? No, that's Rocky 4. That's the one I'm talking about. So the actor has 4 times more education than Bill Nye, the science guy, and he's an actor. Like, in one of the Expendable, they're like, oh, that guy's crazy. He studied. Actually, it's not a joke. What Sylvester Stallone was saying in that movie is actually true. He has those diplomas in real life. But this is what as long as somebody sounds good on camera, we'll believe it, because we read articles now. We don't read the full article that was based on research. We just read the title and we know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is that we read the headline, and the
Yep.
problem is the
100%.
headline, then if you read the article, says this potentially could happen.
It's clickbait 101 right there.
It totally is. It's the same thing what I do on a lot of my videos. You know,
just so you know, if you watch my video, clickbait.
No, the little shorts, you use AI, the Opus Pro, and it's the first thing it does. It's like, that's not what was said, but it sure gets people to look at it and watch it for 10, 20, 30 seconds, which, however long the video is.
Opus is not a bad platform. I use it quite often.
It's a great platform, dude. Wait till they get that B-roll in there.
That's one of the things that's missing right now, is the B-roll, and because the cuts are not necessarily perfect either, so you still have to go through and adjust them. But with the B-roll, it would be great. It would be great.
They've already they asked me about certain things already about it, what to do and which way to have the B-roll, because I use it a lot. I mean, a ton. But if you put keywords, what you put in that you want, it will grab it so much better. It will grab exactly what you want. So when it says, what are your keywords? Whatever you talk about is what you want to put there. And then that way it'll grab those segments. If you let it do itself, 9 times out of 10, it's good, but not the 10th time. Right?
Give or take. Yeah.
But if you put the first, just remember what you say in that, 30-minute clip that you're cutting up, what you want, and it will do amazing. So
it's a great platform. If you're just a content, and that's one of the things I talk with my clients all the time. If you're a content creator, use ChatGPT, use Opus, I record so much content on this.
I got better than that. I got better than ChatGPT.
Which one do you use?
Cast Magic.
I've never used it.
Oh my God, it'll change your life.
Cast Magic.
Hold on, let's get done with this. All right, Nico, thank you so much for coming on Inner Edison today. I really appreciate you being here. How can people find you?
They can find me at Real Nico Lagan on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and at Nico Lagan on everything else. I'm everywhere.
Yeah, under your name.
Yeah,
but Real in front of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Again, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it, and thank you for watching.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man.
It's been a blast. Thank you.